Coming up, guests behaving badly. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
All right, today we're going to talk about changing behaviors from the guests over the years. Or is it? We're going to discuss it. But first, John, how'd your week in the parks go?
My week in the parks was very much so short for me. And I'm going to share my screen. Basically, the only park I went to this week was Epcot. And this was last Sunday. As usual, I had virtual queue for Guardians of the Galaxy. So I went on Guardians of the Galaxy again. And I have to say, as a local, and I know many people would be envious to be in this position, but I am getting very tired of waiting an hour in this queue. I've waited. It literally took about an hour to get in, and I know I should be happy I could ride it at all at this point. And it still is an awesome ride. I really enjoy it, but I have been in this queue so many times now. Like honestly, I've got Guardians of the Galaxy virtual queue for today. My number got called at 8:10, so I'm already a few hours late. So, but anyway, I literally am getting tired of waiting in this queue for that awesome 2-minute ride, and I know that's a good position to be in. So when I go today, I'm probably still going to do it, but I don't know though. I'm getting to the point where I may decide that I'm just going to skip it and not bother. So my main goal today is to get a little bit of footage for Muppet Vision 3D. And I know that sounds weird. I can't find any of my longer format videos on it, and on Fridays I've been doing a 90-second video, and I really think 90 seconds of the Muppets would go a long way. Like, picture yourself working on a Friday, and it's like you come across that, and it's like I feel like that can pull you into classic MGM or Hollywood studios just for a minute and a half. Like, I really think that one would work well. And while I mentioned that, I've been wanting to get a little bit of footage of the Figment ride. And the past 2 weeks, the line has been so long that I literally didn't do it.
What?
The Figment line has been outside the building, queued up, and I'm like, what for the Journey into Imagination with Figment? I'm like,
what's going on there?
Well, it's the crowds, and that goes into our main topic a little bit. The crowds are just really crazy, and imagine the amount of people that are buying Lightning Lane too for every day. Imagine you have Lightning Lane and you're in Epcot for that day. There's not that many rides in Epcot, and so you're probably going to end up using Journey into Imagination with Figment as one of them. Just because, what else are you going to do? There's, I did Test Track. I did, Soarin'. It's like, there's only a couple of rides. Eventually, they're going to get picked too, because you have it all day. And if you're going to be at the park. So that's my guess, but just large crowds. And this happened when the online free fast pass first started, I remember one of the side effects of it is every guest is pre-planning fast passes. So all of a sudden there was a line at at Spaceship Earth. There was a line at the Journey into Imagination, and I'm like, there never was a line there before. So they kind of created lines, and it may adjust over time, but I think they said like 50 or 60% of people are getting lightning lanes. So that's a lot of passes to give to people, and there's only so many you can give. So I guess that's what's happening. But I literally have been wanting to get 90 seconds of Journey into Imagination for weeks now. Not that I can't get on the ride, but I don't want to stand there for 30 minutes to ride Journey into Imagination. Like I really feel like that's not time well spent. So
Mhm.
I did not do that. And for the second week in a row, or I don't know if I skipped a week, I tried the test track single rider line. And again, it was backed up almost all the way to the door. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of single riders to get through. And if you remember a few weeks, probably like a month ago, I was saying the parks are packed, but I would walk into test track and there'd literally be nobody in front of me. I could ride test track within a few minutes as a single rider. That's if it didn't break, because test track.
Mhm.
And honestly, I did get there already, and it just simply broke. I was the next person. But
I've
again,
done that before. That's happened to me before too.
and again, that relates to one of our past podcasts too about I think we talked about the rides, the maintenance, and all that kind of stuff. Like it's kind of falling apart. But I don't even think I brought up Test Track on that podcast, which is sad because Test Track
That's
is a major culprit of breaking down.
I was
And
gonna say that's one of the least reliable rides in all of Disney World.
yeah, I don't know why a car company would want to be affiliated with a ride that breaks down continuously. But anyway, I mainly went to Epcot to ride Guardians. It took about an hour to get through that. I walked around the World Showcase and just mainly got some pictures. Nothing too exciting. And honestly, that's about it for my trip to the parks for this week. I had family in town. I was supposed to go to Horror Nights on Tuesday, and it was just a stressful day, and we decided to stay home that night, and I don't regret it, but you know it, I look forward to doing it again. Now, I was going to say, coming up on Monday,
Mhm.
the Magic Kingdom is open till 11.
Hmm.
My daughter is having people over for a Halloween party to the house, and I'm not really
You
a
don't want
party guy.
anything to do with
I
that, do
I
you?
am going to go to the Magic Kingdom by myself,
Uh,
and I am going to get Lightning Lane, and I'm going to try to see what I can stack throughout the day on Monday for Monday evening.
Very
Um,
cool.
like I said, who is it? Prince Dev. It seems to work for him, so
Yeah.
I've got to give that another try. I really think it must work. So
Yeah,
I'm
Prince
going to
Charming does
try
it
it
right.
again. So I'll have a lot more to talk about next week because I'm going to Epcot and Hollywood Studios today. I'm going to Horror Nights tomorrow night. I'm going to the Magic Kingdom by myself on Monday. And yeah, speaking of that, I really need to find a good place to watch the fireworks that's not on Main Street because that's just not going to work for me. So
Right.
if anybody has any suggestions, let me know.
I'm a big fan of Tomorrowland Speedway, as you well know,
Mhm.
watching them. But I'm looking at your pictures that you're going by, and here comes a little bit of a segue. Did you take these pictures on your new iPhone?
Well, some of them I did.
Okay.
And I
So
did.
we wanted to talk about that your new iPhone, the what is it, the 14 now, right?
And I just got the iPhone 14 Pro, and I already had the iPhone 13 Pro, and I wanted to give you the non-technical Disney, video slash photo person take on it. And basically, I uh, I don't regret getting a new phone because I'm keeping the iPhone 13 too, which I'm still has my cell carrier connected to and all that. So I don't regret it, but I can say I'm not seeing a big enough improvement to make it worth the extra money. Um, the pictures are a little nicer, like they seem a little more crisp, and I think in the raw setting you can have 48 megapixel pictures.
Hmm.
But I've been trying that a lot, thinking that I'm going to get some really good pictures, like I'll be able to zoom in, and I'm just not noticing that it looks all that great. And again, maybe it's a software thing, but the other reason I really wanted this phone was it said it said that the low light videos are greatly improved. Like they made some new sensor that, depending on the lighting, changes what it does. So it's going to be one of the best cameras on a phone, at least in low light. And I find so far that inside rides, like I went into Spaceship Earth, and unfortunately, I don't have the videos available right this second, or unless you want to hear me say, oh, hold on and click around for the next 10 minutes trying to figure it out. But what I notice is the iPhone 13 Pro provides much more lighting. Like I went on Spaceship Earth and I put both phones up, and the iPhone 13 was much brighter. Like I could see more. And for me, that's really important because it's just hard to see in these dark rides. For example, in Spaceship Earth, the part where the hunters and the
Yeah.
whatever it is on the
Hmm.
mammoth on the wall is projected. That's hard to get that on a phone. My iPhone 13 Pro, I could see it.
Hmm.
The 14, I couldn't see it. And I was like, man, that's disappointing. And then I looked, and what the difference seems to be is when you do a video on the 14, it's got less graininess to it, meaning it's a crisper video and it doesn't have the noise in the video, but it's a lot darker, so I can't see it. And I'm like, technically, I guess that's an improvement. Perhaps you could edit the video and add backlight to it or something to make it work better. But as of right now, I prefer the iPhone 13 Plus. And, again, sometimes software needs to be adjusted to make the camera function better by default, or, there's a setting that I could change. But as of right now, if I had an iPhone 13 Pro, I would not bother to upgrade. I would just call it a day. And if you can get the iPhone 13 Pro a lot cheaper too, I may change my mind eventually, but I would be fine with that too. Save some money and don't bother. So, anyway, that's just from the perspective of recording and taking pictures around Walt Disney World and Universal. I uh, I definitely prefer my 13 Pro. So again, that may help somebody out there who's thinking about upgrading or thinking. A lot of times when you upgrade these cameras, you're going to get such good footage that you've got to get everything again, because now the quality of your footage jumped drastically. And again, I'm not seeing it, and since Apple stuff is so dependent on software, perhaps it will improve. But as of now, I'm kind of disappointed.
That's what I, as a Samsung Galaxy user, that's what I've always found. My wife has iPhones, and different kids have iPhones. One kid has Samsung. So that's kind of what I've found, to be honest with you, is that Apple has very good software processing on their photos and video. Samsung is more raw. They don't have the software, but they have the better hardware. So traditionally, it seems like in post, like the pictures are from an iPhone are more photorealistic, whereas some of the pictures and video from the Samsung are maybe a little more washed out. So and I still think that's the case. Like Apple does a good job of, you know, processing that washed out look away to give you that photorealism. It seemed to get better with each version of the iPhone, but it's kind of disappointing from what you're saying that it doesn't seem to be that big of an improvement. Nothing really seems to be that big of an improvement with the new one.
Well, again, for me, it definitely is less grainy in the dark, but unless they can find a way to increase the lighting, at least to where it was on the 13,
Hmm.
I would prefer a little graininess to not being able to see it at all. Like
Yeah.
that's so again, there's a fine tuning in there. And I am not a skilled enough editor to know if I can, effectively edit and add brightness, and then it'll be less grainy, but add the brightness. Maybe there is a way to do it. But as your regular iPhone user guy that's not really, manipulating videos much, most of my videos I simply use. And, so again, there's probably more to it than I am letting on. But for me, I'm just not that impressed with it.
Well, you said regular guy. You're just a regular guy all around, aren't you? From using the
Now,
iPhone to going to restaurants.
I am a regular guy in some ways, but in others, I'm very irregular. So I'm just weird.
Oh man. So
Actually, I'm a regular guy from 30 years ago. Now I'm very
that's
odd.
a, that's me.
I need to change with the times.
Maybe not. That's what makes you who you are. You know. All right, John. Did that cover your week in the parks?
Yeah, not much of a week, but like I said, this week I'll be doing a lot more. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So let's get into our discussion, John. I think we want to cover it from a few different perspectives here, but and again, we're not going to delve into the mud too deep or anything on this. We're just going to talk about the fact that it's been in the news a lot lately. The way guests are behaving at times, particularly at Walt Disney World. But I also want to talk a little bit about how I'm reading on Twitter lately from a lot of team members over at Universal about how guests, particularly teenagers, are acting during horror nights. But I think first maybe we'll cover the thing with Disney, because that's something that and before we started the podcast, John and I had a little bit of a discussion about, and the latest thing, it was the family that was fighting in Fantasyland. There's always, I'm not even going to cover the drunk people at Epcot, because honestly, there's video of drunk people in Epcot almost every week. That's very much in your ball court too, John, because this is something that we've discussed offline and online, about the drinking and everything like that, and stuff. So
I was
I
going to say the ironic thing. Now, those drunk people, it's probably my daughter and her friends. I'm like, oh.
but they're
Well,
probably not behaving badly. You know what I mean? Let's
I
hope
hope
not.
not, but I don't know.
I mean, my daughter's going to be 21 in next summer, so I hope she doesn't find
No,
herself
she
there.
doesn't go there very often, but she has a couple of times. So
Well, I think the one thing that I would say, we have seen a lot of video, particularly over the past couple of years, and part of that's the big social media culture, and part of it there's other factors involved. But the fights and things like that have gone on, particularly at Magic Kingdom lately. What do you think about that, John? I personally think it's a combination between like cultural things and the other factors around Disney. But what's your take on
I think they're great. Oh
that?
no. Oh, no, I was going to say there's a lot to consider when it comes to this kind of thing. And I know as somebody who goes to the parks a lot, I definitely can identify with a lot of these feelings. And again, like the people who got into fights, about people cutting in line and stuff, they typically seem to be everybody seems to say the same thing like, oh, you can't do that, it's just a ride, whatever, whatever. And since they're not here to defend themselves, I'm here to say I have been in a line, and after a long stressful day of Walt Disney World, especially with a large group, you watch as people go in front of you, people go around you, people cut through. It can get very frustrating and really, just get on your nerves by the time somebody's walking by you again. I'm not saying that I would do it, but you definitely get to the point where in your mind at least you're thinking, I'd like to just stop them people from doing this. I'm so, just you just get so frustrated. And honestly, one of the big culprits too is dealing with Lightning Lane. When you're in the regular line and you don't move for 10 minutes at a time, watching someone walk by you, whether justified or not, can just get so, like, it's so disheartening. And again, I can see it from all sides, but I would never, get into a fight about it. But I'm also not surprised at all that it happens. And I think as the costs go up, as Lightning Lane gets more popular, people are going to be even more angered because again, like the group that got into a fight, there must how many people were in that group? Like 10, 15 people, something like that. Imagine the cost of that vacation. It's probably, if they're staying on Disney property with all those tickets and stuff, it's got to be 10 grand would be on the low end, probably
Yeah.
higher than that. Because I used to do 5 grand staying in a moderate resort. So, I mean, it's got to be really expensive. So imagine all that money you spent and feeling like you're stuck in these lines and this and that. People keep going by you for different reasons. And at some point, is it really far fetched to just say, stop? No, no one else is going past me. It's like, it's not right. But I've been there where I felt like that. And again, I didn't do it. But so anyway, I wanted a little bit of, I have a little bit of empathy for people who things like that happen to. So again, I don't know the specifics of all of it. I'm just saying from the perspective of somebody who sat in these lines already and just feel like they're never going to end and how terrible they are. It's like I can see getting to the point where not violence, but at least getting to the point where you might tell somebody, no, you're not going by me. I don't care
Hmm.
who's up there. Because again, for every one of those you see, or I should say for every like 10 of those you see, there's probably a handful of people that are just making it up too. Like I've already seen like people say that and they just go through the whole line and I'm like, those people aren't looking for
Yeah.
anybody. How
I've
you can't
seen that.
prove it, but they're basically they just walked right through the line. They're probably laughing at the end of the day, saying, "Hey, just walk through the line, no
I've
problem."
seen that with a lot of people, like not a lot. I've seen it a few times. I'd say twice with people that there would be like two or three of them or something, and they would get up there and uh speak a different language than English. So I don't know. They might have been foreigners or they might have been immigrants or something. I don't know what, but I've seen that before, and then they just kind of laugh once they get up in line, and you know, they don't appear to be with the family that they're near. I've seen that at least twice over the years, and again, I've been going there a lot of years. Uh, it's interesting. This isn't a new problem, actually. I remember when I was younger, um, seeing this happen at SeaWorld, of all places, back in the 80s. Like, some guy was butting up in line to join his family or something, and my dad got very upset and said something, and they had a little bit of a mouth battle back and forth. My dad was a very intense guy. But again, you know, the heat of the moment, you know, it's, you're in a long line and you're frustrated. And right now it's really bad because with the lightning lanes, the costs and all that, lightning lane is supposed to promise you the efficient access, you know, to the ride. And that's not really the case
With the
anymore.
maintenance issues, depends. The ride might be broken, so we just don't know.
And that's the other part of it. There's a lot of external factors that cause this. It's not just, you know, guests behaving badly, which is why I put a
Amount of time, and they used to keep certain places cleared out that you could kind of even walk by. Like, I've got a video just walking by where I could just see like it's like there was nothing there. So
Hmm.
they're not keeping space open around it to see it, and there's just so many people in the parks apparently that it's just not possible. And again, I was so frustrated and I could not go see it anywhere. I could not do anything. And as I left the Magic Kingdom, there were two exits and they were very close together. And since I was taking the walking path, I didn't want to go to the bus exit. So I was walking towards the other, and I got yelled at to that I had to turn around in mid walking, go back to the further exit just so I could go around and go right back to where I was going to go. And again, this was not that cast member's fault,
Mm-hmm.
but I was so frustrated and so just sick of everything by that point that I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something that wasn't very nice. So I was one of those guests, and I didn't say it directly to him. I just said something loudly that I'm sure was not nice at all, and you know, I felt slightly bad about it, but I just, again, it's not their fault, but after leaving that chaos and just wanting to get to the thing, to be yelled at and told I need to turn it, I just had enough. And again, that's even somebody like me that really tries to have self control as much as possible. And again, I didn't do anything terrible, nothing I would get in trouble for, but I just remember being very angry at that point.
Hmm.
And then I proceeded to enjoy my walk back to the parking lot, which was great. But again, stress can cause a lot of things. And I know I mentioned before too, there were a couple of Brazilians. This is a few years ago, sitting behind me in the Indiana Jones show, and they literally were taking their feet and pushing it into my back. And I turned around and I looked at them, and they did it again. And they just did. And I remember at one point, I just stood up. I clenched my fist. I took a deep breath and I walked out. And I'm like, never in my life did I want to grab somebody by like the hair and just rip them right out of it. They were doing it on purpose and they really didn't give a crap what I thought. And I'm like, my only thought was lifetime ban, lifetime ban, lifetime ban. Don't just walk away. And so I did. My family and friends were in there watching the show. I went out and sat in front of there and just waited. So again, with that kind of thing, you know, I tried a few times, like letting them know they. I don't know exactly why, but and it wasn't like a gentle like, oh, they were touching the seat. Those seats are open in the back, and they took their feet right into my back
Hmm.
again and again and again. And I don't know, maybe they were looking for a lawsuit or something, trying to, Oh, somebody struck me at Disney World. I don't believe it. Lawsuit, maybe something like that. I can't imagine why anybody on earth would do that. I don't speak Portuguese, so I couldn't really say too much to them. And again, this is not a reflection on all people from Brazil. It's just like anybody else. There's some crappy ones and there's some great ones, and just like everybody. But anyway, they happen to be Brazilian at that time, and that's when it was very popular for the Brazilians to vacation there. And again, I don't know what they were saying or why they were doing that, but my goodness, never in my life have I wanted to cause a scene.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't. But if somebody else did, if I didn't live right next to Disney and really knew that regardless of justification, you're going to get a lifetime ban, that would have been one time in my life where I probably would have at least said something very nasty to them and made a scene about it, and if it escalated from there, then it escalated from there. But again, because I know the way it works, you can tell Disney whatever reason you want. There's no reason to fight in Disney. So there's no reason that they would accept. So again, imagine if I finally moved to Florida, after all these years, and then I'm lifetime banned from Disney.
Oh my goodness.
That'd be the biggest fail ever. But
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point about everything that you said. I mean, those are factors that cause guests to, I guess, behave badly. But over the past few years too, with the the virus restrictions and all those kinds of things, and people, certain people having different opinions and different feelings about, that whole thing, and some of the complications and of doing a Disney trip around that whole thing. Price increases, another big thing. I mean, people are very frustrated by all these things, and it's causing, and in a society where accountability is different among who is actually committing, the problem. I think there's frustration, and I think we're seeing that manifest in the parks. That's the thing, though, because the parks have so much attention and so many cameras and so many people in them, videoing, taking pictures. That's what brings us up. But this isn't just a park thing. This is across society. I think we see a lot of the same things that are going on in the parks are going on in society. And it doesn't help whenever Disney has basically brought society into the parks, right? So, like, whereas Walt always had that policy, and it was a policy of the parks for years to kind of create a fantasy land, a place to get away from society. I don't think that the company is doing that as much anymore.
yeah.
It's kind of like all the things that are going on in the outside world are now part of what's in the parks in some ways. So
Yeah. So yeah, and I was gonna say one other factor too. Not there could be more, but I was gonna say the cast members are definitely a factor too. Where
hmm
like everybody else, I feel like everybody in society anymore is very much concerned with themselves.
hmm
And again, cast members are no different. And again, there are great cast members and there are not so great cast members. And I know that's blasphemy to ever say, but living this close to the park for all these years, I know many cast members. I know former cast members. I know my old neighbors were security at the Disney parks, and my daughter works at Universal. And I can say, you know, uh, sometimes the cast members contribute to this stuff too, and sometimes it's on purpose. And again, I'm not going to get into any specific details, but suffice it to say, some of these cast members absolutely hate the guest. And that will reflect in how you're treated. Did you ever
Mhm.
feel like you were made to wait on purpose somewhere? Like you purposely were like just stopped and you had to wait weirdly long? And well, it probably was on purpose. I can tell you again, I would never do that. When I do a job, I try to do it the best I can. I try to have empathy. I would try to have empathy for every customer. I would respect their time. And again, not all the cast members are like that, unfortunately. And, they have their own ways to, I don't know how to say it, get revenge on guests, try to make your life worse or a little more miserable. And again, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. I'm sure they can justify all that in their minds. And it's not all of them, I'm sure. But like I said, I feel like it used to be more about guest experience was the most important thing. Your individuality, your expressing yourself, your personal feelings we're very far behind that. And again, that's a very old school way of looking at things. But, when I was in school, they said, you run a business or corporation like it's a person or that's going to live forever, basically. And, when you're supposed to, there was a big deal about representing them and this and that. And now, I used to work at a gas station and, yeah, we found ways to mess with customers there too. So I'm not above that. But again, we're working for Disney though. It's just one of those things that it definitely, justified or not, it can actually add to the guest's bad behavior. And a big part of it is too. This isn't even bad cast members or anything. Here's a good example of the frustration levels building up at Disney. When my daughter was maybe like 10, we went on a trip with her cousin who was also about 10. And we always wanted them to get picked in the Festival of the Lion King to go around the little circle thing. And that was we always wanted to do it. And when you go with certain people only every so often, it's like you don't have a lot of chances in life of doing that. And I literally, this is when we were only vacationing here. We waited like an hour to be amongst the first people in because we wanted to sit up front so they could be in the show because they loved the show. And like I said, she didn't go there. She only went like once or twice with her cousin ever. But anyway, we got the front, and I was like, awesome. This is they're most likely they're going to come and pick you. And well, right in the front, there's handicap places right next to you, and we weren't in one of those. Well, some other people came in, towards the end that didn't wait at all, sat in the handicap spot. They were told they need to move. They refused. They just ignored them. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. Eventually, they were told just to move down, which pushed my group behind people in the second row. And I was just livid. And guess who got picked to
Yeah.
go out in the show? The people who came in late, sat in handicap, refused to move, and then we got pushed down behind the second row. And again, that is an example of cast members creating additional frustration because again, I didn't say anything, but that is forever burned in my head, and I was very angry and stuff. And imagine if I was in line later and people are cutting through, stuff like that could really contribute to just anger. And again, you do everything right, follow all the rules, and bad guests I've seen rewarded a lot in the parks throughout my life, and that would
Hmm.
drive me nuts. I'd be like, so the worst behaved guests get treated the best in special moments and this and that. And I'm like, they should have grabbed that person, had security come in and escort them out, not allow them to take my spot in the front seat.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
mean, the point
literally what
is,
happened. I'm like my mind was gonna just explode. And again, that's one of the things cast members can do to unintentionally, make situations worse and make guests angry. And that stuff happens a lot.
and the point to that is the fact that you did everything right there, and you planned and you did the things knowing, having a little bit of knowledge and research and experience, you knew where you needed to be,
Uh,
and you got in there at the right time and did all the right things in order to get to that position, right?
well, I
So,
can tell you, my daughter is 21 now, and she never got to be in that show. And I never bothered waiting again because I basically thought to myself, if something like that happens again, I'm just not. I'm only human, and I need to. I because that's the thing. If I were to tell Disney about that kind of thing, they would just look at you like, "Huh?
yeah,
What do you want us to do?" Because I've already done that too. This is another one where I've already gone to the Magic Kingdoms or Animal Kingdom specifically at night just to ride Flight of Passage, and this is when it was new, like in 2017. And they decided to close that land an hour early for a special event. So I drove there, I parked, I got in the park, and then I saw a sign saying, "Ah, we're closing early." And I decided to go wait in line, and I told customer service about it. I said, "I don't want anything from you. I don't want anything free. I don't want anything special. I just want you to type in the system that put me down for a complaint that I'm not happy that I came all the way here and the most popular new land in all your parks is closed an hour early." And I had no way to know until I got here. So I said, "I know there's nothing you can do right now, but just let it be known you got complaints about it. I'm not happy about that at all." She didn't type anything. She just looked at me like there's something wrong with me. And then she said, was there, she said, did you see the sign? What time did you come? I'm like, "I did see the sign, but I, I already came here and that was the only reason." And again,
you didn't see the sign from your home, right?
no, I didn't. And it
That's the
wasn't,
thing.
it wasn't on the app or anything to let me know.
Yeah,
And so anyway, yeah, the only reason I'm bringing these stories up is just to illustrate some ways that I've been frustrated, by
right.
decisions that Disney made and cast members and stuff. So again, you add increasing crowds,
Prices.
yeah, high prices, lightning lane lines that just get worse and worse. Meaning, if you don't have the lightning lane, good luck because that ratio is getting to be so bad that. Oh, you know what else too? I was in the Little Mermaid queue couple of weeks ago for about 30 to 40 minutes, which is crazy for that ride.
Mhm.
And there was no air conditioning till I got near the
Oh my
lightning lane
gosh.
portion. That seems to be a new thing with Disney too, that
Yeah.
they're not air conditioning the standby lines very well in a
Yeah.
lot of these rides. And I'm like, that is so terrible. Like they did that on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway too.
Mm.
I literally was sweating through the whole line. I got to the part where it merges with Lightning Lane. The air conditioning was great, and I'm like, so they don't give you air conditioning anymore? I'm like, I'm sure that's not every ride, but I've seen it several times now. That I'm like, this is yeah. They really have you in kind of a box there. It's like high prices, super long lines. Turn off the air conditioning. I'm like, and then they're gonna wonder why they have more problems with people acting out and stuff. It's like
I
I'm not
wonder if
I'm not
are
surprised.
are they pushing things enough to see where the guests actually break? I mean, these are pretty obvious things seemingly. I don't understand. It's
Yeah,
this is a multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company. I don't
it's
understand
hard to
why
say if
they're
it's on purpose or not, but if it's not, it sure is coincidental. it's
so. Yeah, I this doesn't just happen at Disney either. I did want to talk a little bit about horror nights, and At the end, I noticed this year more than last year. It was weird because last year I did notice a little bit of a police presence, but this year, from my understanding, at the end of every house or where there's two houses grouped together, it'll be, where the two houses are, there's a police cruiser
Hmm.
sitting there, and there's a police presence there between the two. Like I said, if a house is close, for example, the Weekend House and the Mummy House this year, um, the Classic Monsters house. Those houses are really close. The lines are really close together, and so they shared like a cruiser, up the same police presence. Reading on Twitter, they actually have a policy in place that if you are a scare actor, and your daughter could probably speak to that too, and somebody actually makes contact with the actor or actress, they're supposed to walk from their station in the backstage or area and go right to their manager, and then they wait at the end to like escort, grab the guests, they identify the guests and take them out of the park. I think that used to be done by security at one point, but now it's like police presence. And so I'm seeing on Twitter these team members talking about gangs of teenagers going into scare zones and like getting up into scare actors' ears and screaming at them, not making contact. They know where they can push them, but it's like a common thing with a lot of the teenagers, like getting up in the ears of the scare actors and screaming at them and trying to more or less conduct their own scare zone or something within a scare zone towards the actors and actresses. I gotta tell you, these you see what the parks are doing nationwide with these policies of restricting teenagers from entering the park without adults. It's gonna There's gonna be a reaction, particularly when these gangs of teenagers act this way. These parks are going to have to set policies in place that are going to control them if parents and guardians aren't going to do it. And it's a shame these things have to happen this way. It really is.
That's another reason that I have Express.
Yeah, me too.
I
That's
don't
why
think
I
I
get
could
it.
stand next to them for that long
Yeah,
again. It just wouldn't be
and they
worth it.
do, like, being in those long lines and things. I imagine that behavior can get a little rowdy, and you can hear them right when you're in the express lines. You can hear them like acting out and things like that. So it's not a teenager problem per se. It's just certain groups of them. You know what I mean? Teenagers are teenagers, but somebody's got
Well,
to be the adult in the room, right?
teenagers apply to people up to like 35 now, so
That's right. I forgot.
you know
Yes, that's right.
they just got back from McDonald's with their
With
adult
their
happy
adult
meal.
happy.
They're all the kids. Leave them alone.
Well, I think it's strange because I see it actually in parks across the country where they actually have police now at the back of these houses. So it's not just universal; it's like nationwide. People being in these scare zones or scare houses and making contact with the actors and actresses, and in theme parks, you're typically not going to have them make contact with the guests, right? I mean, Universal doesn't really do that, right?
Mm-mm.
And so, in some of the more extreme ones that aren't really in theme parks, you do have contact. Field of Screams in Pennsylvania, for example, and places like that where that's what they do. They actually do make contact. Like my daughter went to Field of Screams this year, and one of the actors smeared like fake blood on her face. I mean, that's what happens at Field of Screams.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. I was too young to go, but my mom went to a haunted house that was local, and she said, yeah, there were witches in there hitting you with brooms. They were trying to
Yeah,
pull you into places, and it
yeah,
was like a full contact kind of house. So
yeah. I went to one in Niagara Falls one time years and years ago on our honeymoon. Amy and I got married. Was in the 90s, and there was one up in Niagara Falls, Canada, that was just completely dark, and you just followed a light on the ceiling. and they made contact with you in there. That you couldn't see what they're doing, but they were touching you and stuff, and like,
Yeah,
maybe directing you and shoving you in a certain way and things like that. It wasn't harmful. It wasn't aggressive, but at the end they chased you out with a fake chainsaw at your back and they made contact with it. So it was enough to freak you out, But yeah, Universal, that's not so much a problem. But guests making contact with the scare
yeah.
actors, that's
That's a problem every year, but yeah, I don't know if it's getting worse or not. But
yeah, wow. So
actually, my daughter was in House of a Thousand Corpses. I think this was 2019, and multiple people were punched and hit, and
oh my goodness.
I think she might have already been like they at least like she's already been not necessarily in that house, but she did do the scare acting, and she's already been literally hit like in the face and stuff by people. And again, the problem with Universal, I don't know if it's still this way, but the team member would have to press charges, which means they've got to go to court and the police station or do a bunch of stuff in order to do it. And a lot of them would just be like, I'm not going to get, it's too much. I only get paid at that time. I don't know. You're getting paid like $12 an hour or something. You're not going to take a day off of work and do this and that. It's like just not worth it. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's sad. I mean, that somebody would do that. I understand if somebody jumps out, scares you, and you accidentally graze them or something like that. Like you go like this or something. But to actually physically make contact, punch, and assault somebody,
yeah.
it's just awful.
Luckily, all the team members look out for each other, though, in a big
That's
way.
good.
And those people you see standing around the houses just staring and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
they've done some awesome stuff. Like when my daughter was doing it, like I think like one of the guys who played like Otis or whatever, like literally left his post, went and found the person who like did that, and like made it a point that he aggressively went after him. Like this is not going to happen, and they were very protective of their fellow team members like that and stuff. So in the
That's
end, it was
awesome.
all good. It isn't like somebody gets hit and everyone ignore it. There's the other people there will definitely have your back and make it a point that at least that the people get thrown out. I think that was the point. They may not have had charges pressed,
Right.
but that security at the end, they probably said this guy, you know, did something, and they're
Hmm.
escorted off property, and they're still doing that very much so. A lot of times you get what's called trespass, and
Right.
the way that that's working now, I think they're using that more now at Universal, because I remember my daughter had said somebody came back the very next day and tried to use their pass, and it wasn't working. And then when they went through guest services to look it up, they got trespassed the night before
Yeah.
for being drunk and violent in the parks. They literally were trespassed, meaning your pass is gone. Yeah, you're done.
I gotta tell you too, Universal's trespass is like permanent. It's completely permanent. You're
Mhm.
done. Whereas like Disney, you can appeal it and there's a process, and some people I've heard where it's taken 3 or 4 years and they
Well,
end up getting back in. But Universal's is permanent. Once you've got that trespass, you're
well,
done.
that's why it would take an awful lot. I'm very much aware of that for me to ever do anything that would cause a trespass. I would sooner probably put my hands in my pockets and just like take a literally take a beating and not and just wait and see what happens. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
There could never. I would never, because again, I live right next to it, and I
hmm
love Universal and I love the Disney parks, and I would not want to be banned for life, no matter what that means. And again, they're not real good at deciphering who's right and who's wrong. So
that's right. I was
again,
gonna,
I don't think I could do anything. I just have to just close my eyes and hope I
yeah.
don't get hurt too bad, because there's nothing I can do.
I think there needs to be a clarity of process, though. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
there's
they
not
need
though.
to.
They just
I
say
know.
everybody's trespassing out, and I'd be like, but I didn't. They'd be like, we don't. Everybody's out. There's a
Yeah.
fight. It's like I
My
just can't.
understanding is on that fight in Fantasyland, and like the people that were actually being physically, like everyone got trespassed right away. From my understanding, they all got thrown out of the park that day, but they actually sorted through the culprits and after investigation, because there's so much video of it, that they figured out, and they actually, the people actually resorting to violence were the ones that were permanently trespassed, and even the guy, I think there was a guy getting in between them to try and stop it, he was thrown out, and then they figured out, okay, he's not, they rolled that back. So I think they do try and have a fair process, and like a
The problem is
thorough.
though, if you're literally like something happens to you and you fight back,
Yeah.
if you happen to get the better of that fight, you think you're
Oh
not gone
yeah.
forever.
Oh,
It's
for
like
sure,
there's
for sure,
nothing, there's nothing, there's not a good situation. So
for sure, you're
again,
right.
if you actually know a little bit about fighting or use something to
Hmm.
stop it, it's like you're going to go right to being the bad guy. So you
Oh,
really
for
can't
sure,
do
yeah.
that either. So
Yeah, it's like
it's
the
kind of
opposite.
scary.
The victor doesn't tell the story in those instances. It's
Yeah, the
whoever
guy who
got the
won is
crap beat out of them.
obviously guilty.
Yeah.
It's like, well, all I did was kick him in the back of the leg to knock him down because he
Yeah.
was attacking me. It'd be like, so you kicked him and knocked him down. You didn't get knocked down. It'd be like, but they'd be like, guilty.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're guilty. You know. So again, you're not allowed to win. So
Yeah.
I I don't know how else to get
You're
into it.
right.
How
Yeah.
do you get into a fist fight but make sure you don't win? It's like
Yeah.
that's not that's you just
Get
don't
yourself to
do
the
it.
hospital or what? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know how
so
to do that. So I'd rather just curl into
yeah,
a ball and wait, I guess. It's not my natural way I would want to handle it, but
me neither. Yeah.
unfortunately it would have to be.
Yeah. So to put a bow on this, I think it's important to say that, yeah, I mean, the, resorting to violence is not the way to go, and there are consequences to it. But by the same token, there's a big story behind every one of these fights, every one of these frustrations. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that go into it. So we have a tendency to look at media and say, "Oh, there's guests behaving
Yep.
badly again."
Everybody says the
Yeah,
guests, they're
there's the
terrible.
guest
Those
behaving
guests.
badly again.
And
But
there's a
I
lot
mean,
more.
yeah, that's the thing. There's a lead up to that. What caused that guest to have that behavior?
Well,
Are there things that we can do
while
to,
I'm
you know,
while I'm telling stories too, here's another one that nothing happened, but this there was a few drunk 20 somethings carrying on and yelling and stuff. I was recording something. At one point, this girl turns around, walks backwards while she's yelling something or other, runs right into me, like just right into me, then proceeds to say basically, what the F? Why didn't you get out of the way? Why? And I'm like, I took a deep breath, my fist clenched, and I kept walking. I was like, keep walking, keep walking. I'm like,
mhm.
I don't deal well with drunk people. I don't deal well with irrational people. And what I if I would have said anything that I was thinking at that time, I probably would have been attacked by drunken, horrible drunken people. And again, that's just one other example of
Yeah.
if I would have made one comment, which would have been very justified, I probably would have been one of those people of, guess they're so terrible, they're so dumb. Look at this guy. He's such a
Yeah.
horrible person and this and that. And it's like, yeah, you just, another reminder, life's not fair.
Yeah. That's for
Life's not
sure.
fair. What I think Dennis Leary used to say that life's not fair. Buy a helmet.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
added some explicatives in
Yeah,
there,
some very, yeah, I remember that. I remember
but
that.
basically, life's not fair. Buy a helmet.
Yeah.
Good luck. It's like so that's the way that I have to think of things. So I probably have countless stories I could tell you that,
Hmm.
depending on my actions, could have turned into, the next story on social media
WDWNT
about
or
how
somewhere like
horrible
that.
these people are, and it could have been
Yeah.
me there, just getting beaten
Yeah.
up by drunk women. And again, what she would have said, I don't know. Like, she could have said, "Oh, he called me this or did that," and it's like, I would say, "No, I didn't." But again, I don't know. Banned for life, I guess. I don't know. It's like,
You
there you
you
go.
could have been the
Just can't do
latest
anything.
you could have been the latest trending alert from WDWNT on Facebook for
Hmm.
the next 3 weeks. So, it's
Yeah, and
which
again, I am very good at that. I have never in my life gotten into a violent altercation, and I think a reason for that is I used to do taekwondo. I used to spend a lot of time with the punching bag and stuff, and I got to the point where I felt very, very confident that most untrained people, I would have no problem physically against them. But when you get to that point, you tend to not do it.
Mhm.
It's like the people who can fight are the least likely ones to fight, and you
Yeah.
kind of get it out of your system. And again, even as a teenager, I was already punched, I was attacked, I was jumped on and rolled, and but I never physically get into any altercations. So I've done a good job, but I can say it's not easy. It's not
I
easy to go through life and do that
Yep.
kind of thing. So,
I
or
know it's
I
not.
should say, not ever get into anything like that.
I totally get you. Unfortunately, myself, I have when I was a teenager, I got into fights and it wasn't good. So it wasn't a good thing.
But anyway,
But
yeah, good summary.
yeah,
Uh,
I
Behavior is getting worse at the Disney parks and maybe Universal too a bit. And it's not just the guests' fault; it's overall stress, cost.
yeah,
The people who work at these places sometimes contribute to it, sometimes unintentionally, as we discussed, sometimes intentionally. And there is so many factors that go into this. And again, I like to mention it because when you read the comments on, the news sites, it always seems to be one direction.
it does.
The
And
people are
yeah,
terrible. The people are terrible. The people are
yeah,
terrible. I agree. What happened is terrible and stuff, but it's not that simple, and there's no justification for violence. But there's so much more involved with it, and like I said, I could have personally been involved in many, many incidents. Just again, I never was involved in an incident, but I've gotten close so many times that I literally had to take a deep breath and step back and say, do not continue down this path that makes the most sense in your mind right now.
sure,
And
yeah,
I was right to do it. And I'm saying, if I can do it, I'm not going to be surprised when something happens to somebody else. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm not above it myself. But like I said, never happened yet. But
Great
so,
summary, John. Great. It was a good discussion. So, how did social media go for the week?
well, it's been, I don't know. I feel like I'm continually disappointed with Instagram. And again, we were talking before about, at some point in the coming year, YouTube is going to monetize their YouTube shorts in a big way. And a lot of people are predicting that YouTube or Instagram is going to be in big trouble. And I'm getting to the point where I hope so, because
Mhm.
I'm just so, again, there's a lot of weird numbers, but again, 15, 15, 15. They like the 15s a lot. Here they like the 24 and 28s. It's like, this video was not that impressive. This video was a lot more difficult. Again, it's all the same in the end. I could put up a random clip. I could put up something that took a lot of work, and it's not really going to matter that much. I am my growth is coming back a little bit in my Walt Disney World one, but I literally I have one video recently that went over 100,000, and that's because it's the Disney pilot. It's not my video. He collaborated with me to do it, and it's literally a view of Hollywood studios from the air. Honestly, that should be even bigger than that, but it's just not. But my stuff is just not that impressive. And like I said, I know so many people with smaller accounts that have had these pops with a couple 100,000 or even more. The one guy I know had over 1 million views, and he's got like 30,000 followers. But again, when I went over 100,000, I was put in this weird predicament where I am very, very, very much not getting much of anything. And from what I heard, people with millions of followers complained, so they kind of let them back have their reach back, but they're still giving the very small people reach. And people like me, it's like once I hit 100,000, I'm just garbage to them. And again, really makes me want to look into make sure I'm ready for YouTube Shorts coming up in January, because again, it's sad, but it's just a weird situation. But anyway, I am at 1.7 million for my Disney, the reach for the last 30 days, which, I was up as high as 6 a little while ago. My bonus is $265 so far. So, that's pretty decent. You can see on the screen, my reels they're doing all right, but again, like for what some of them are, it's very disappointing how well they don't do. Like some of them have such little work put into them, and they do just as good as the ones that took me an hour to put together. And what was I going to say? Yeah, lately somebody else's video is the only one that really did really well lately. Like this one here took me at least an hour to put together. It made it to 50,000. That's pretty good. But I've even been trying, like this video here, it's based on a trending sound. And, I had to edit all the videos in VN editor and put it all together. And like I said, it took about an hour. It still just doesn't really do that much. And
by the way, that based on your advice and seeing other people use it, I've been using VN editor a lot lately, and
I do like it.
It's nice. Yeah, it's a nice software.
But anyway, disappointed with that. My Universal was, as soon as it hit 100,000, it dropped drastically too. Let me see where we're at with it. This is one that my reach was, almost 7 million at one point. It's down to 3.1 million. I can't show you on the screen, but my account reach basically dropped one day, and now it's at a new level again, which is exactly what happened to my Disney one. When I hit 100,000, I was no longer on the recommended pages. My views simply dropped drastically. And in the past, I would have ones for every bonus cycle in the millions. I think the best one that I had is this, 557,000. Again, it's 5 times better than anything I could do on my Disney one. But, ones like these would be 1 million plus a couple months ago. So it's cut back drastically. And at a certain point, it started going down, and it started getting to the point where it really was pretty low. But again, it's still doing better than my Disney one, but my growth pretty much stopped where I was growing at a rapid pace, and my growth went to, a handful of people. Like I was at 102,000 last week. I'm sure it's like weeks go by and my numbers go up extremely slow. My Disney's actually going up faster now than my Universal.
Hmm.
So again, it's just weird. And let me see, how much is my bonus up to for this one? $316. So I mean that's pretty good.
That's better than the Disney one as
It
far as
is.
monetization.
It is, but this is in the process of getting pushed down again to the $100,000 dud accounts is what they are starting to have. So again, the uh, the president of Instagram or whatever, whoever the heck that guy is, he seems very concerned about very small accounts and very large accounts. I just wish he'd be concerned about all accounts. I'm not looking for any special treatment, but you know, I'm in the forgotten accounts right now. So, and then my Instagram or TikTok, I am fairly happy with this one. I wanted to say this video here is 106,000 views. Its counterpart on Instagram, which I did the same video basically on Instagram first, it has less than half the views on Instagram. So I'm kind of tempted to report a problem on Instagram where you can report it from anywhere and send a screenshot. I'd like to send a screenshot and just tell them my videos are actually doing much better on TikTok. But thanks for not completely holding back everything I do. It's like,
Oh my goodness, they'll your reach will really go down at that point because
this. I know I'm very tempted to
yeah,
say
you
I'm
know
I'm
how
very
that
I'm
goes.
very happy with how things are going on TikTok. The same video is doing much better, but thanks.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. I'm just saying with this particular one, it was. I've had a couple of good ones, and I think this is from last week, but my Splash Mountain is up to 426,000 views. That's great for TikTok. And like I said, this compilation video is up to 106,000. That's pretty good. But recently, I've gone back to low viewership again. But it happens. I'm up to 69,000 followers and 2.4 million likes. And again, I am not unhappy with my performance on TikTok. I follow a lot of people on TikTok who put a lot more work into their stuff than I do. And I'm at a similar level as they are. So again,
Mm-hmm.
I can't complain because there's people that do such a good job on TikTok, and they literally go out of their way to make these videos that are entertaining, funny. It's like they put so much into it, and in comparison, I don't. So I'm lucky to be where I am on TikTok already. So I'm not.
Well, you put some creativity in yours too, so I wouldn't shortchange yourself.
Yeah, like I said, not as much as some of these people though. Like some of these people, they literally have other people in their videos and this and that. Like they just do so much that it's above and beyond what I do. So I did want to mention too, not that we do a lot with it, but 1.67 thousand subscribers on YouTube, and let's say, yeah, the shorts are still hit and miss. I've got 282 views, 1,400 views, 24 views, 550 views, 2.3 thousand views. It's like, I don't know. And then Kevin, 23,000 views. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with this, but I did hear, the rumor is when YouTube officially monetizes reels in a similar fashion, or not reels, shorts in a similar fashion to what they do their long format videos, that it's going to be much more lucrative to post shorts than it will reels or TikTok. And
Hmm.
again, if Instagram gets beaten up by this, that's where most of my followers are. So it sucks, but at the same time, it couldn't happen to a nicer company.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, I'd love to say thanks for the weird manipulation of everything, but you know, now nobody likes you anymore. It's like so. Again, that's just my feeling on it. I've been doing it for 5 years, and the numbers don't make sense. Like, and here's the other thing. I know I've said it before, but for anybody listening that may have not heard it, I literally was posting on an account that was they had about maybe 2 or 3 thousand followers, and I was able to get 250,000 view videos, 500,000 view videos. They were racking up follows and stuff, and these are the same videos that I already posted on mine. Like, they're not doing anything on mine. I'll get like 50,000 views, they'll get 250,000, and I'm like, it's the same video. So literally, the only difference is I have 100,000 followers and they have like 2,000, and I'm like, so Instagram is taking what would make sense and reversing it, and I'm like, that's great for the other guy, but
Yeah.
for me, it's not really a thing. So it makes me think too. I've actually heard some of the internet guru guys say it may be time to just delete your Instagram account and start a new one, because they're not going to treat the old accounts very well. They don't like old accounts, they're treated terribly. And I thought that too. I was like, man, if I wasn't helping somebody else, I'd be rolling with this. I'd be freaking, I would be hitting thousands of new followers and everything else. But again, the account that I helped has more new followers than I've had.
Yeah, right.
Again, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just doesn't
favoring
make
this smaller accounts.
But again, they don't care about the video. I could have the best video ever. They're gonna look at me and go, based on you,
Hmm.
here's how well it's gonna do, and that's the end of that. It's like, all
All right.
right.
All right, John. Where can they find you online?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, SeeWDW on YouTube, C.UO on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and you can find me at the Giant Rat, THEE Giant Rat, on Instagram and on TikTok. And we will see you on the next one.